hip hop soul in the crowd. Yeah.
All right, everybody, welcome back in. It is the Rob and Stu show. Normally, we'd be talking to you about Week 11 college football picks, but today, what kind of wood do you want to use to build a bookshelf? Roberto, your thoughts?
I'm gonna go with a nice oak. A
Yeah.
nice oak. There's really no point to me watching sports. I mean,
I agree. You'd have to be a complete loser.
Can you imagine?
I
Can you
can't.
imagine surrounding your October around beating a 84-win team to get to a World Series, or maybe one of the worst holding penalties in a Super Bowl era?
Or missing 23s wide open against some team from Virginia. You couldn't make it up, and that's why I don't even watch that kind of stuff. I don't even look at it.
No. Hey, we're going to be going over, how to, take all the water out of your sprinkler system for the winter.
Ooh, that's a great show, folks. Stay tuned.
You don't want those pipes freezing.
You do not want that. You do not want that, folks. That's coming up. I guess since we're here, we'll do Week 11 college football picks. Everybody's out. Everybody is MIA. You got me and Roberto this week. You got the A team anyway. We're the only people that actually have a winning record at this point. So it's just us. So expect wins. Although I hate the card this week. I am not a fan of the card. Roberto, you?
It's not great. It's not great. It's really not. But last week was a great week for college football. This week, not the greatest. I mean, Michigan, Penn State has a little intrigue if you're used to people that do things in showers and war criminals. If you want to see that versus each other, two absolutely scumbag schools playing versus each other. Just
you couldn't put it any better. Yeah. You couldn't put it any better. I mean, if you want to, this is like you're watching like a National Geography channel, like Jail or like Inside Alcatraz or whatever, and you see a pedophile and arsonist get into a fight in the courtyard. That's what that is.
Yes.
That's good. Look, you're not going to get that kind of analysis anywhere on any other college football show.
Well, what is your feeling on that game, though? That line opened at 7.5, and it's down to 4.5.
Well, it's coming back up. I've seen 5s start to pop up. I did bet it Sunday when it was at 7, when it first opened up. I really would want 7 or 7.5 if I'm going to bet Penn State. I think Michigan very well. I mean, we still don't know. It sounds like Big Ten's going to try and discipline Harbaugh before the game.
I don't think so. They said they have their lawyers ready. Listen, those losers aren't going to let anything happen to this guy. They're just not.
It's kind of like Chris Van Dine. Chris Van Dine joining the show in progress. CVD, how are you?
He's here.
He's fine.
Hey, I'm so sorry. I was watching that Indiana Gulf Coast game. I lost track of time.
What's the score of the game?
It was going great. Now Indiana's up 6 and about to be up 8.
It's okay. Florida Gulf Coast, they are fighters, if nothing else.
Yeah, it was the Gulf Coast was actually up 4, and there's been like a rough 4-minute stretch where they haven't scored.
Should tell you about the programming note. This week we're talking about top soils to use in your gardening bed. Chris, your thoughts?
I don't have a garden.
Could be a tough show, folks.
Yeah, I suppose if you're trying to bury a body or something, that topsoil sounds great. Don't know.
You're not going to get that kind of analysis anywhere else.
Rob's Italian. He should know something about burying bodies.
Easy.
Whoa, geez.
We don't talk about that. That's
come on.
That's for post show.
You don't know who's listening. Come on, Chris.
Yeah, I'm more of a deli guy than I am burying bodies. I'm the kind of guy that hangs out in the back, cutting pepperoni, doing the sport, the betting lines.
Yeah, Rob's the guy you go to for mortadella, okay?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I work in the back at Satrial's. I don't really do the killing.
Allegedly. All right. We were talking Penn State, Michigan. Compared them, just to catch you up, CVD. Compared it to like a prison fight between a pedophile and an arsonist. Your thoughts?
My thoughts about the game or about the comparison?
Both.
I suppose it reminds me more like Eastern Promises, the end of the movie. Speaking
Fair.
of, yeah, one of the weirdest endings of a movie I've ever seen. Like they got to the end of the movie, they're like, "How should we end this?" I don't know. Let's have Viggo Mortensen fight dudes naked, like just swords slapping each other on the legs and like just weird. I liked that movie up till then, and I was like, "Oh, that's a weird decision." As for Michigan and Penn State, have you seen that movie, Stu?
I have seen it.
Yeah, good movie up till they just fought.
Stu has the DVD copy of that movie.
Like, could they
I don't play it once a week by myself. I don't.
Yeah. I'm sure some dudes were very excited for that scene. As for the game, it's I just don't know what to make of Michigan because they've played absolutely nobody, but I do feel like Drew Aller just hasn't impressed me. He doesn't get the ball downfield. I think J.J. McCarthy does. I think they have a better downfield threat. I obviously like Michigan's running game, but they haven't run the ball very well. In the last 4 weeks, they've only rushed for 146 yards a game.
Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum are just not running the ball very well.
No, they haven't had to show much either, though. Ultimately, I think Michigan wins this game. I'm not comfortable enough to say they cover. I think it's gonna be a close game. Probably
get it. I got it. 47. Yeah, I feel like it's a trap. I got the number, like I was saying earlier, at 7, and I feel like if you didn't get it when it opened, it's probably not a play you should make.
There's a lot of pressure on Franklin in this game, isn't there? I mean,
tons.
I think there's a lot of pressure on him, especially at home with this team. I don't know. I feel like this is a big spot for Franklin. Not that he's not going to get fired, but I mean, I just feel like from their fan base, there's a lot of pressure on him.
Well, he's got to win a big game.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Michigan thing, I mean, to find out that Rutgers was trading signs, just you hate to see the war criminals come after Rutgers and Schiano.
Don't put Schiano in it. That's all I'll say.
Oh yeah, you try and corner Schiano, you're going to get the front of Satrial's. Okay,
that's right.
That's what you're going to get.
That's right. This is such a weird thing with this song. This has gone from just like a normal story. I don't know. I feel like Michigan's doing its best to try to just put a blind eye to it, but I don't know.
The fact that Central Michigan is now involved in getting questioned is just absolutely wild.
I'm kind of shutting the whole thing. I just don't care until they figure out what officially happened, what the truth is, and what the repercussions are. Until then, I'm kind of checked out on the whole thing. Because every time I look, there's some absurd, speculation. And I think I'll say this much: where there's smoke, there's fire. So I'm sure some of it's true, but I'm sure some of it's also people reaching and, grasping for straws. But I definitely did this. Something was being done that wasn't supposed to be done, and Michigan's definitely guilty of something. So we'll see what happens when the dust clears. Ooh, Florida Gulf Coast is now down 11.
Bad.
They were up 4 at the 10-minute mark.
They were up. When I was talking to Roberto before we started the show, they were up 6. Thanks, Chris. All right, let's get into the plays. Let's get into the plays. I hate the card this week, Chris.
I just made a 3, so 8-point game. Thank you.
Nice. I hope you like the card this week because I hate it.
Don't hate it, don't love it. I'm just checking how I did last week. I'm not even sure.
You had the only winning record on the show last week.
Nice.
5-4. We'll get to you up last. We're changing the order. By the way, Chris, you like this? You like this?
Oh, absolutely. I noticed that shirt right away. That is
you
awesome.
Got to get it. The Campbell Camel stuff on home field. A free shout out. No free shout outs, but free shout out. It's electric. The Camels gear is just it's my favorite.
Shout out Todd Gebhardt, big Campbell fan in the North Coast office.
Well, tell him to represent, man. Love Camels.
He does.
Love the Camels. All right. Not betting the Camels this week. I'm coming into this season top of the rankings, number 1 in the BCS, number 1 in the CFP, number 1 in Joe Lenardi's bracketology. 50-35 on the year, 6-6 on my dogs, 7-5 on my locks.
That's not bad for a guy who makes his picks with a pencil.
It's a pen, dickhead. Let's start off Vatek -1.5. I might have to call Roberto for this play. You brought it up before the show. I looked at the betting splits. This game opened up. BC favored. It's now fully switched to Vatek, which is not great if you're BC. They were life and death against Jack Del Rio's son last week. I think Vatek takes him out. Sorry, not sorry, Joe Baggs. Shout out. Enjoy that game. It'll be a barn burner. Vatek -1.5. I'm going to the Big Island. Last game of the night, first game of Sunday. Give me Air Force laying 19 at Hawaii. Air Force, that was one of the most surprising outcomes of the year last week against Army. That was so wildly just out of the blue. But that game, not a conference game, really does not matter. Only hinders the fact that they're probably not going to a New Year's Six Bowl. But everything Air Force wants to do still in front of them. Hawaii coming off a win at Nevada. That's great and all. The Wolfpack are aides. I think Air Force makes a statement. I like them laying 19. I'm going to go with the Pitt Panthers -2.5. I can still get 2.5. That line is 3 in some places still. I feel like it's steaming up. And it's just a play against Syracuse. If Schrader, that line screams to me Schrader's not playing. I don't know if you've heard anything, Chris, but that's what it says to me.
I haven't, but Syracuse has played so poorly lately, and Pitt did cover against Florida State.
I'm gonna take.
But I'll say this much: if he doesn't play, the backup was terrible last week, and he was hobbling.
Yeah, I'll take Pitt -2.5. Although third string quarterbacks against Pitt are 1-0 this year, so who knows? Not salty. Arizona, Colorado. Give me the over 54.5. I do respect Arizona's defense, but I think Colorado at home. I think this game gets into the 60s.
Betting a Colorado over. This isn't September 3rd anymore, pal. You're in November. Have you seen their offense the past couple of weeks?
I have. I do think it's a mix of. I think Arizona's defense. This is the kind of defense that Shadur can score into the 20s on. But Arizona's offense, I 100% respect it. I feel like it's a 38-24 type game. That's just
I stayed up for that UCLA game last week. Arizona's offense was basically drop back to pass, and they had all kind of pressure. He would just run all day. and just make plays happen. So maybe he can run all over them.
Well, Colorado's got one of the worst defenses in the Pac-12.
Yeah, no, they stink.
So
They stink.
I could see it happening. Give me the over in that game. I really like this other over. LSU Florida over 63.5. I think this is dependent though. I may take it off the card. If Daniels
Here we go.
playing,
Here we go. He's giving flip-flop picks now. He might take it off. You're betting it or you're not betting it. What are you doing? You're taking it off.
There's a caveat. If
You're
Jalen
betting a
Daniels
Graham
isn't playing,
Mertz
I'm not
over.
taking it. If
This
Jalen
Campbell
Daniels
starts
isn't
not to.
playing, I'm not taking it. Don't give me Garrett Nussmeier. Okay. If Jalen Daniels isn't playing, I'm not playing the game.
This is how he gets the best record, by the way.
Look, I have the best record because I make plays like this. And I actually read the injury report.
You're a shyster.
My question is, at what point do you have to know whether he's playing to take the over?
Probably Saturday.
Oh, Chris, this will be the
Okay,
third
so I'll
quarter
add
of
it to my card. Okay, I'll add.
Is
It's
it-
not
if-
on the card right now.
He's
I'll
going to be
add
a
it to
game
my
time
card
decision.
Saturday.
I guarantee it.
Yeah.
You'll know something.
Chris,
Saturday.
Chris, this is the third quarter text. Oh, did
Okay,
you know I
fine,
took it off my
fine.
card?
You
when it's 6-3?
pieces of trash. You pieces of trash. I'll play the over. What Nussmeier, whatever. Graham Mertz, Nussmeier, fireworks in Baton Rouge. Give me the over 60.
First guy ever to bet a Graham Mertz over.
I hate the both of you. You guys are just jelly. For my dog, 6-6, I'm gonna go Vandy. Only because I don't think South Carolina should be laying double digits to really anybody. I think Jacksonville State proved that. Give me Vandy plus 14. And then lock of the week. I'm going back to the Wildcats. They have done me solid all season long. I think they get home. They're going to be pissed off. They're going to take it out on a Baylor team that is nominally better than the newcomers to the Big 12, but not by much. They're walking into a buzzsaw. Give me K-State as a lock, minus 20.5. Those are my picks. Last time I'm ever leading off again because I get assaulted because you guys are so behind and never going to catch up. Roberto, 29, 27, and 1. Fade Rob week was a success for the Bobcat. Dogs, 5-5. Locks, best in the league, 7-4. When it's Easter and he tells you to paint eggs, paint them.
You paint eggs.
Yep.
First bet of the weekend. I like Nebraska getting 2.5 Saturday. Terrible loss to Michigan State. But this Maryland team, I just don't like the football that they're playing. Now, last week they go against Penn State. Franklin hates Maryland, right? He used to coach there. For some reason, he loves to run up the score on Maryland. But I just, even though Penn State's a far better team, I just don't like the way this Maryland team has played the past couple of weeks. They lost at home to Illinois. I thought Nebraska was playing a little better before the Michigan State game. They kind of slipped back. But I think Rule has them headed in the right way. I like the line in this game. I like them getting 2.5 on Saturday. I'm going to stay away from that Michigan-Penn State game. That's an odd game. I want to take Penn State, but I just hate both schools, so I'm going to stay away. Here's an interesting line. Texas Tech going into Kansas. Kansas coming off an upset win, or I wouldn't say an upset win, but Kansas coming off a big win. Texas Tech only a 3.5-point dog on the road at Kansas. This line speaks to me. I like Texas Tech in this game with the points. They're going to be my second play of the weekend. My best bet of the weekend, the Kentucky-Alabama over. Stu tried talking me out of it before the show started, but I like this bet. I don't think this Alabama defense is that great. I like the Kentucky quarterback when we were at the game. I think they can move the ball. Obviously, Alabama can move the ball. I think their offenses look pretty good the last couple of weeks. Kentucky's defense, nothing to write home about. I think we get this game on the over at 48.5. I think it's a little bit low right now. That's my best bet of the weekend. Virginia Tech, like Stu said, I love Virginia Tech. Nothing against Boston College. I'd have thought they looked like crap in that game for Syracuse. I mean, that what was that? The third string quarterback for Syracuse that played? I mean, he was horrific.
Second.
He couldn't even.
He was
What's
backup.
that?
He's the backup.
He's the backup.
Wilson, yeah.
Jesus, he looked terrible. He looked terrible. They were down at half. I just think Virginia Tech played better, like Virginia Tech in that game. I like Kansas State, like Stu. He stole my pick. Baylor is just god awful. This Rutgers Iowa line is down to 1. I'm going to tell you something right now. People are going to laugh. This under is going to hit at 28.5. These teams are not going over that.
There is 29s out there.
Is there 29s out there? I think it's going under, man. I mean, listen, if Gavin could complete a forward pass, I would take the Rutgers money line. But God, his throws just. He had a couple of opportunities in that Ohio State game last week to score on a throw. Guys open and just, his accuracy it's atrocious. It's downright atrocious. He can run, but that accuracy is bad. But I think that under hits, and I think it hits easily. I think that's a rocking chair game. You don't even have to sweat it. Another game I really love, I was just looking at with the lines, and I wanted to get your guys' opinion on this. San Jose State versus Fresno State. San Jose State is only a 1-point underdog with a 4-5 record, and this Fresno State team is 8-1. Please tell me, I mean, you guys know these rosters better than me. What is the logic on that line? Because on that line alone, I'm betting San Jose State money line.
So, Rob, look at who San Jose State's lost to: USC, Oregon State, at Toledo, Air Force, at Boise State. Okay. All 5 of their losses were to good teams.
Okay.
And honestly, San Jose State's on my card. So that was a team that we actually, after their 1-5 start, we had penciled them as a team that we liked to start to get rolling. We used them against Hawaii as a power sweep and a late phone play. Yeah, 35-0. They've dominated their last 3 games. This isn't a bad football team.
No, they're good.
No.
And I think you've got some to it. Fresno State off a big game at home against Boise State. You're not traveling far to go to San Jose State, but still, this is a tricky spot.
Yeah. I like San Jose State here. Yeah, absolutely.
What's your dog of the week? You've given out like 18 dogs.
Listen, you know me. You know I go for them all. My dog of the week is going to be. I guess it should be that. Now, my dog of the week is going to be Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss can hang in the. I just haven't been blown away by Georgia's performances. I really haven't. JC's going to hate me. I'll probably be banned off the network.
Well, Bobcat's going to kill you.
Yeah, because he likes Ole Miss too.
Alabama's defense, which is the greatest defense ever created.
I want to throw one more dog in there who I think has played better of late, and OU I think is reeling. West Virginia on Saturday, 12.5. West Virginia hasn't played bad football. And that's my place.
What's West Virginia at right now?
12.5.
11.5?
12. Oh, I got a 12.5 here, but it might be 11.5.
I got 12.5 as well. So, all right, Roberto.
Yeah, 12.5 for me too.
Coming in strong.
Actually, throw one more Texas A&M in there, minus 19.5 or minus 19. Mississippi State's next.
Okay, so Roberto doesn't really like the card, yet has 10 plays. So
okay, one more question for you guys before we turn it over to Chris. This Arkansas Auburn game. Arkansas is terrible. Even though I got it last week, that was one of my only winners. I loved Arkansas. How is this team laying 3 at home? Is Peyton this bad?
A little bit, but also Arkansas. I mean, every game they play is close. Was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? 6 of their last 7 games have been decided by 7 points or less. That's a wild run. And some of those games at Bama, at Ole Miss, at LSU, all close losses. They're not as bad as their record. They're better than their record. And if they win this game, they're going to end up being 5-6 going into the season finale at home against Missouri, with a chance to go to a bowl game. That's going to be interesting if they can pull this out.
I think it'll be interesting in this game to see if Jaquez Hunter is able to because they're going to ride him. Auburn is riding him. It is his season. He is.
Arkansas's got a good run D though.
Yeah, and that's the big issue. I mean, Auburn has proven Peyton Thorne, Robbie Ashford, that's not going to work at QB. And that's kind of what we had talked about before the season, Chris, is that, this passing game, Hugh Freeze probably not too excited about it. It's going to be all running.
No, they're going to have to go back in the portal and find someone new next year.
Yes, they will. Hate to see it. Do you want to add Arkansas to your card, Roberto?
Yes.
Okay. Arkansas -3.5.
We only have a couple weeks left of college football. I have to lose all the money in my account. I can't be going into full college basketball with any kind of money. What's the fun in that?
That's exciting. I'll let Courtney know. All right, CVD.
She's in Las Vegas. Forget about it. She's spending all the money anyways.
Yeah, fair enough. CVD coming off a winning week, the only winning week on the show last week. 29-38 is the record. Dogs, 3-0 week on the Dogs last week, brings them up to 7-9. Locks, 3-11, not the worst on the show though, so that's a positive.
All right, I'm going to start with one of my locks and go Oklahoma State. They're on a roll. Ollie Gordon's facing a run defense that's been atrocious lately. UCF in the last 4 games has given up 281 rushing yards a game, 5.9 yards a carry, and now they're facing possibly the best running back in the country, or at least he's been the best lately. Ollie Gordon's been an absolute animal. He already has 1,200 yards. And Oklahoma State's been they've been cover stars. Last 5 games, ever since they got in Big 12 play, cover. And some of them have been easy. Last week they pulled the upset against Oklahoma. It is a little worrisome. They're going into the heat in Central Florida and Orlando, but I just don't think this Central Florida team's all that good. And we've seen time and time again these teams from the Big 12 that moved into the Big 12 this year. They play these teams that were already in the Big 12. They can't compete with them right now. Very few wins from the new Big 12 teams against the holdover Big 12 teams. UCF just beat Cincinnati by 2, and Oklahoma State smoked Cincinnati the week before, 45-13, put up 601 yards against them. I really like Oklahoma State the way they're playing right now. So that'll be my lock. Before I get to my dog, I have 2 dogs. Before I get to my dogs, I'm going to throw out a couple other plays I like. I'm going to use Alabama. I just don't think Kentucky's all that good. You lost to Tennessee, you lost to Missouri, both at home. I think Bama beats both of those teams. I think Bama's just on a roll right now, man. I don't know how Kentucky could possibly win this game. I saw a crazy stat. Mark Stoops' career against teams that finish with a winning SEC record, he has 2 wins. 2 career wins against SEC teams that finish with a winning conference record. That's
yikes.
Amazing in 11 years. He's feasted on the Vanderbilts and the South Carolinas, and Florida's been bad, and Tennessee had down years since he's been there. So they've been able to kind of take advantage of that and win a lot of games against the bad teams in the SEC. But when he plays the teams like Bama and Georgia, typically they don't do well. And, Bama's not going to be intimidated by this atmosphere. They've done well, 6-2 against the spread coming off of LSU, which is a game they typically win. So I don't think there's any letdown spot, especially because they have to win out. They have to win out to make the playoffs. I don't think they have a letdown at all. Jalen Milrose looking like he has stepped up a lot since he got benched earlier this year. So I like Alabama there. I'm going to go with an over in the marquee game of the week, South Florida versus Temple.
Yep.
2 of the absolute worst defenses in the country. South Florida giving up 89 yards a game more than their opponent's average, 459 yards per game allowed, giving up 306 pass yards a game. They can score. They're averaging 30 a game. They're averaging 37 a game in conference. You got a competent quarterback in Byron Brown, who has a 17-7 ratio. He's also a dual threat. Kind of playing that Hendon Hooker role for the South Florida offense, which, Alex Golish was the OC at Tennessee last year. On the flip side, you got Temple, who got E.J. Warner back last week. Now, they were having a rough stretch without him, but E.J. Warner, that's Kurt Warner's kid, has been pretty good. They threw for 402 yards last week against Navy. Before he got hurt, he threw for 472 against UTSA. They're averaging 21 points a game, but when he's starting, this is a different offense. But defensively, they're abysmal. They've given up 433 yards a game. They've gotten gashed in the ground. 5 different games they've given up over 200 rush yards. They've also gotten gashed through the air over 300 pass yards in 3 separate games. So bad defense, decent offense when they have their starting quarterback against bad defense and decent offense when when things are clicking. So I think both teams could end up scoring a lot. That total is 67.5. I think it gets into the mid to high 70s. So I will definitely.
It's trending up. I've got 68, 68.5 at some books.
I have 67 here on DraftKings.
Yeah, I like it.
I went to one of his first starts last year, Warner, when Rutgers played down there. It wasn't terrible. He can definitely throw the boy. Small, but he can.
I mean, his dad. His dad probably schooled him well. Yeah. Give me North Carolina against Duke. I think Duke is a mess right now because of their quarterback situation.
That line is skyrocketed.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at how Duke's played lately. Yeah, they're averaging 261 yards per game in their last 4, and 267 last week against Wake Forest. They should have lost that game. They absolutely should have lost to Wake Forest. They were fortunate to pull that one out. They had shut out the week before at Louisville.
If you're not playing 9 in the box against Duke, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, especially without Riley Leonard, and he wasn't even playing that well. They have 7 combined touchdown passes this year, even with Leonard. So, defensively, they were pretty good earlier in the year, but it seems like they've actually taken a step back. Wake Forest moved the ball really well on them last week. I think Drake May might have a field day. It's a road game, North Carolina. I believe that's gone up to 13 or 13 and a half.
13 and a half.
Yeah, I see it at 14 here.
Wow. Yeah, I'll take North Carolina. Would prefer to 13 and a half. I see 13 and a half here, but it's up to you. Whatever you got to do.
No, I see 13 and a half on Bet Rivers.
We talked about San Jose. I like San Jose against Fresno. I think they're going to win that game outright as a small home dog. Also like UTSA. They're on a roll. You talk about a team that's absolutely mowing down their conference opponents. UTSA minus 14 and a half. And they're 5-0 straight up and against the spread. Very similar to Oklahoma State, where it doesn't seem like they totally took their non-conference games seriously, so people were down on them. And since they've gotten into conference play, cover, 5 straight covers. They're playing Rice, and I don't think JT Daniels is going to play this game. He was injured. He had a concussion last week, and I can't imagine whatever Rice has behind him. I think it's a kid named who came in last week. Chase Jenkins, I think. Yeah, Chase Jenkins. He was 10 of 16 for 85 yards against SMU. They did keep that game close, but Daniels didn't get hurt until the second half. So I think that they could be in for a world of hurt without Daniels. And they were outgained 484 to 290 in that game. They also only put up 271 against Tulane. And remember, I was glad to hit Rice that week, but they were down 27-7 in the second quarter against Tulane. So if they get down big to UTSA with a backup quarterback, they're not making that rally. Going to my dogs. I'm going to go with Utah at Washington. Whittingham just always seems to have his teams playing hard on the road, and Washington is off such a a monumental, emotional win. Utah's got the defense to limit Washington's offense. And, before last week, Washington had some questionable games, beating Stanford by 9, beating Arizona State 15-7 at home with 288 yards. And that was right after that Oregon game where they pulled it out late. So they had a letdown spot there that they escaped from it. I don't know if they escaped from this one. It's at home, just like that Arizona State game was. But if they play like they did against Arizona State after the big win against Oregon, Utah might beat them. And,
Utah's a good defense too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, they have interesting. Now that you mentioned that, Rob, we have the philsteele.com ranking for defensive yards allowed versus your opponent's average. They're holding their opponents 129 yards per game below their average. That's number 1 in the country. They're allowing 282 yards a game. They just held Arizona State to 83 yards last week. So, yeah, getting the points. I know it's a road game, but that's such a letdown spot for Washington.
Even that over-under, 53. When do you see Washington in an over-under game at 53? Not very often.
Yeah. I'll also take Charlotte against Memphis. Seth Hennigan left the game last week. I'll tell you what, I wasn't sure about Biff Poggi, but I do like that he suspended some of his defensive players last week, and they won. So it seems like the message must have gotten through. And I like the fact that they came out and managed to win that game. It was only against Tulsa, but they are catching double digits here. Let me see what that line is right now. 9.5. Well, that's actually dropped from 12 to 9.5, which is probably an indication that Hennigan's not going to play. I like it a little less at 9.5, but I do think that Charlotte could keep this game very close. Memphis does have a very big game on deck, I believe. Because if you look at the AAC standings right now, it's really SMU, UTSA, Tulane, and Memphis. Now, Tulane and UTSA playing on the last week of the season. That is probably going to be to go to the conference championship game. And then SMU plays Memphis next week, and the winner of that will probably go to the conference championship game. So it's almost like semifinal games with SMU and Memphis. And Memphis could get caught looking ahead to that game. So I'm going to take Charlotte plus 9.5. I wanted to ask you guys about something. What do you guys think about Miami getting the points against Florida State?
That seems low to me.
If I had to bet, I would take Miami.
Me too. I've gone back and forth on whether I want to take this game. Series-wise, the underdog has been a great play in this series. I think it's 18-7 to the underdog, 8-1 to the visitor. It's just, man, Van Dyke has been so bad lately.
Well, I think Miami's just trying to figure out what the hell they want to do offensively. If you look back to what they did against Texas A&M and what they've done subsequently, it's like,
I know.
Where did that game come from?
Yeah. They were beating North Carolina at halftime. They beat Clemson, and then
I look at this, Cristobal has probably got a whole bag of tricks specifically for this game. He's got to give the fan base something.
Yeah.
If I had to bet it, it would be Miami. But again, they look so wretched. And Florida State's going to be up. This is a huge rivalry game. If they can put it on them, they will.
Yeah, I agree. I'll tell you what. I haven't been super impressed with Florida State. They don't cover against Pitt. And that game could have been closer because remember, Pitt's wide receiver was crossing the goal line and fumbled into the end zone, and Florida State recovered it. That could have been I think that would have actually given Pitt the lead late in the first half. They had to get a late touchdown to cover against Wake Forest. They were losing at halftime to Duke. They dominated Syracuse, but everyone's dominating Syracuse right now. They were up 22-0 against Virginia Tech, and then suddenly gave up 17 unanswered, and it was a 5-point game in the third quarter. And then Clemson, they should have lost that game probably. The turnovers changed that game completely, and Clemson missed that late field goal, the chip shot, And then Boston College, they only won by 2. So there's been some red flags I've seen with Florida State, but statistically, it all looks good. But every game, there's a moment where I'm like, man, are they going to – there's something missing. So I tell you what, throw Miami on my card. I'm still unsure about whether
As
I'm
a
going to
dog or regular play?
regular play. Yeah, I just think Miami's going to cover this game.
All righty. That'll do it. CVD, what you guys got going on at North Coast?
Totals game of the year this weekend, and we are red hot in Power Sweep, man. Get Power Sweep. I'm glad Joey Bags got it last week. I hope he used the Power Sweep plays because, man, I'm trying to remember what they were off the top of my head. I know that. Oh, wait, wrong issue.
Yeah, Bags. How about a little money coming back this way, pal?
Yeah, hey, Bags. Hey, we know where you live.
Yeah,
I mean,
underdog play of the week is hit.
Sandwich and a coffee. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Underdog play of the week is hit 3 weeks in a row on in Power Sweep. We had Oklahoma State last week. Our 4-star won last week. Oh man, who was it?
Did the guy even send a thank you?
He did say thank you. Yeah, he said thank you.
Oh, okay. All right.
The only play we lost in Power Sweep last week was Georgia, which I backed off of. We made that decision. That's the hard part. We got to make those decisions for Power Sweep like 8 o'clock in the morning on Monday. And then by like Wednesday, sometimes I look at a game and I'm like, oh man, I did make the wrong decision there. So I backed off that game quick. But yeah, it's been
Chris, if you would have saw the way their fans acted in Kentucky, okay, you would have, poor, thank God Chris wasn't there because,
Two-time
national champion.
The worst.
sounds like it.
Was so offended that a Tennessee Mongo said that, what is it, Neyland Stadium?
Yeah,
Is
Neyland Stadium is a really great place to watch a game. Well, it's not Sanford Stadium. Two-time. God. You know what? It's karma that he left his keys in Louisville.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, at least he got to see the great state of Kentucky.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a positive.
The bluegrass.
Yeah, that's what they say. Go check out cvdncsports.com. Hit him up on the Twitters. Hit us up if you need to get in touch with him. He can, if you want to test drive Power Sweep like Joe Bags, win some games, let us know. We'll get you in touch and we can get you set up so you can take a look-see, because I'll tell you, Power Sweep is actually, it's a phenomenal read. You guys do a lot of great work on it. So
we'll get together a coffee order for Bags to buy for us. Bags, I'm a venti guy. Maybe a splash of cream or almond milk, and 1 stevia. Listen.
Chris likes Turkish coffee. Motor oil.
I don't drink coffee.
Oh.
I'm a tea guy.
Oof.
Okay.
I am. You can ask anyone in the office.
You need treatment.
We'll
talk about that next week. Week 12. It's coming to an end. I hate to see it. I absolutely hate to see it. It is coming to an end. All right,
college basketball's here.
That's right.
Basketball is here.
6-0 Gulf Coast covered.
Night. 6-0 last night. How you
Gulf
like
Coast
them
covered.
apples? The Gulf Coast did cover. Drexel did lose. They're dead to me. Never betting them again. Roberto and me, we will be back. NFL plays later on this week. We got to find somebody. We'd invite Chris on, but he, like us, like me, hates the NFL. So, we'll find somebody. Until then, take care, brush your hair, and we'll see you after a while.